Have you ever noticed how some women don't need to argue, prove, or raise their voice to be taken seriously? And yet, when they speak, people listen? A woman with self-respect doesn't rush her words. She doesn't fill silence just to feel comfortable. She understands something most people forget: calm is power. When she speaks, her tone is steady, not sharp, clear, not loud, and that alone changes the energy in the room. She doesn't say everything she thinks. She says what matters. That's important. Because self-respect is not about winning conversations. It's about honoring yourself while you're in them. In the book The Four Agreements, there's a simple idea: be impeccable with your word. A woman with self-respect lives this. She chooses words that don't betray her values, even when emotions are high. When someone disrespects her, she doesn't attack back. She doesn't explain her worth. She simply names what's acceptable and what isn't. She might say, "I'm not comfortable with that," and then she stops talking. No apology, no justification. Silence does the rest of the work. Most people talk themselves out of power. She lets quiet speak for her. Notice this: she doesn't beg for understanding, she assumes it. And if it's not given, she doesn't chase it. She understands that clarity is kinder than anger. Boundaries spoken calmly land harder than insults shouted loudly. A woman with self-respect also knows when not to speak. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves her energy. In essentialism, the idea is simple: less but better. She applies this to language: fewer words, stronger meaning. When she disagrees, she doesn't personalize it. She doesn't say, "You're wrong." She says, "I see it differently." That one sentence keeps her dignity intact. It shows confidence without arrogance, strength without hostility. She doesn't use language to manipulate guilt or control. She doesn't say things to be liked. She says things that are true. And that honesty builds respect over time, even from people who don't always agree with her. Most importantly, she speaks from self-trust. She doesn't need constant validation because she's already validated herself. In the gifts of imperfection, the message is clear: belonging starts with self-acceptance. Her words come from that place, grounded, whole, unshaken. A woman with self-respect understands this final truth: how you speak teaches people how to treat you. Every calm boundary, every clear sentence, every moment of silence is a lesson. And when she speaks this way, the world adjusts, not because she demanded it, but because she never abandoned herself. Have you ever watched someone walk into a room and instantly command attention? Not by yelling, not by boasting, but simply by the way they carry themselves and the way they speak? That is the subtle power of calm, respectful words. A woman who has self-respect understands this intuitively. She knows that authority is not about volume, aggression, or dominance. True authority is quiet, steady, and undeniable. It is the energy behind words that makes others listen, not the words themselves. When she speaks, there is no rush. Each word is deliberate, chosen with care. She avoids filler, avoids over-explaining, and avoids reacting impulsively. She knows that when she pauses before responding, she not only gives herself time to think, but she also signals that her words matter. There is a rhythm to her speech, a calm cadence that communicates confidence without arrogance. People notice this. They lean in. They listen. Respectful language is the backbone of this power. She doesn't resort to sarcasm, insults, or condescension, even when faced with provocation. Instead, she chooses clarity. She speaks in a way that uplifts her own dignity while still acknowledging others. She might say something as simple as, "I hear what you're saying, but I see it differently." Notice how different that feels compared to an angry rebuttal or a defensive rant. One is an assertion of self-respect, the other is a demand for attention. One commands natural authority, the other creates friction. There is also an invisible confidence in restraint. By speaking calmly, she demonstrates that she is not controlled by emotion, that she can respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This doesn't mean she is passive. On the contrary, it is the courage to remain composed under pressure that makes her words weighty. People are naturally drawn to her because calmness is rare in a world where noise, interruption, and chaos dominate conversations. The way she communicates sets boundaries without raising her voice. Authority doesn't need to be loud, it needs to be respected. She models the behavior she wants to see, and in doing so, teaches others how to interact with her. Over time, this consistent approach transforms the dynamics around her. Colleagues, friends, and even strangers begin to mirror her tone. They speak to her differently because she has silently trained them through her own behavior. Finally, calm, respectful words create trust. People feel safe around her even when they disagree. They understand that her power is rooted in self-respect, not manipulation or ego. And this is the ultimate form of authority, not fear, not control, but the quiet, compelling influence that makes people listen, reflect, and respect her naturally. A woman who masters this knows that her voice is not just sound, it is presence, it is influence, it is authority, and she wields it without apology, without aggression, and without losing her self-respect. In every conversation, she proves a simple truth: calm, respectful words speak louder than anger ever could. Have you ever noticed how some people speak loudly to be heard, and yet their words barely carry weight? Now compare that to someone who speaks softly, steadily, with intention, and suddenly the same words resonate like a bell in a quiet room. That is the difference self-respect makes. It is not found in the decibel of your voice, but in the tone, the certainty, and the presence behind your words. A woman with self-respect understands this deeply. She knows that respect is earned, not demanded, and her tone does the work that volume never could. When she speaks, there is an underlying calm that communicates confidence. It is not aggressive, it is not brash, and it does not need to dominate the conversation. The power comes from how she says things, not how loudly she says them. A gentle, measured tone signals to others that she is grounded, that she values herself, and that she expects the same consideration in return. Tone is the invisible thread that weaves authority and dignity together. It carries far more influence than a raised voice ever could. Self-respect in tone also means she does not feel compelled to fill silence with unnecessary words. She is comfortable with pauses because she trusts that her presence alone is enough. Those pauses give others space to process, to reflect, and often to adjust their behavior. There is power in this restraint. People who attempt to overpower others with noise often reveal insecurity, while those who speak with self-respect reveal certainty. The difference is subtle, but it is noticed by everyone in the room. She also understands that tone communicates her boundaries. When someone crosses a line, she does not need to shout, threaten, or argue. A calm, steady voice stating, "I am not comfortable with this," or "this is not acceptable," carries a firmness that cannot be ignored. It conveys strength without hostility, authority without aggression. Her voice teaches others how to treat her because it reflects her inner saint. Angered, she respects herself and will not settle for less. Self-respect also shows in the way she handles disagreement. Instead of raising her voice to prove a point, she expresses her perspective with clarity and poise. She might say, "I understand your view, but I see it differently," or "I appreciate your opinion, yet I feel another way." These statements, delivered in a composed tone, carry far more weight than any loud argument ever could. They demonstrate that she is confident in herself, secure in her convictions, and unwilling to compromise her dignity to be heard. Finally, her tone is consistent. It does not fluctuate based on the reactions of others. She is not swayed by anger, fear, or ego. This consistency is magnetic. People listen not because she demands it, but because her words, spoken with calm assurance, draw them in. Self-respect shows in tone because it signals control, composure, and integrity, all qualities that naturally command attention and admiration. A woman with self-respect knows this truth. It is not how loud you speak that earns respect. It is how you speak. Your voice, steady and true, becomes your power, and your tone becomes the unspoken language of authority. Have you ever noticed how some people rush to fill every silence, repeating themselves, explaining every detail as if their worth depends on being heard nonstop? And yet, there are others, often women with self-respect, who speak, pause, and let the silence carry their weight. That pause is not emptiness, it is power. It is the invisible force that makes words resonate, giving them authority that over-explaining can never achieve. A woman who values herself knows that she does not need to justify her feelings, decisions, or boundaries endlessly. She trusts that her perspective is valid. She doesn't explain to convince, to manipulate, or to appease. Instead, she pauses, lets her words land, and allows others to respond on their own terms. This pause communicates confidence. It says, without saying a single word, I am sure of myself, and I do not need to over-explain to be understood. Over-explaining often reveals doubt. It creates an impression of insecurity, as if the speaker is trying to earn approval. A woman with self-respect avoids this trap. She understands that clarity does not require elaboration, and that too many words dilute the impact of her message. In her conversations, every sentence is intentional, every pause is deliberate, and the spaces in between carry a silent authority that draws attention, demands reflection, and commands respect. Pausing also gives her emotional control. In moments of tension or conflict, when others expect a reaction, she does not rush to respond. She takes a breath, gathers her thoughts, and chooses her words carefully. This restraint disarms confrontation. People often speak impulsively, driven by emotion, and later regret their words. She, however, transforms silence into strength. Her calm pause shifts the dynamic. Others feel the weight of her composure before they even hear the next word. The power of pausing is not just in conversations. It extends to boundaries, requests, and disagreements. Instead of over-explaining why something matters to her, she states her stance simply and then pauses. She might say, "I am not comfortable with that," and allow the words to stand alone. In that quiet, the message solidifies. It becomes undeniable. People feel the gravity of her conviction because it is delivered with clarity and left unembellished. Silence, when paired with intention, teaches lessons more effectively than words ever could. It signals that her worth is not up for debate. It shows that she respects herself enough to be patient, to wait, and to let others meet her at the level of her dignity. Thank you. It is in these pauses that the world learns how to engage with her. It is in these pauses that authority quietly asserts itself. A woman with self-respect understands this simple truth. Over-explaining diminishes power, while pausing amplifies it. Each carefully chosen word lands with clarity, and the silence that follows speaks volumes. People listen not just because of what she says, but because of what she doesn't feel compelled to say. Her restraint, her intentional pauses, her refusal to over-explain, all of it communicates a message stronger than any argument could. She knows her worth, and she will not settle for anything less. Have you ever observed how some people allow others to overstep, to speak over them, or to make decisions for them, and then wonder why they feel drained, frustrated, or disrespected? Now notice the difference when someone sets a boundary with calm firmness. There is no drama, no shouting, no pleading, and yet the message lands perfectly. This is what a woman with self-respect understands. Healthy boundaries are not aggressive. They are clear, firm, and delivered with confidence. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about protecting yourself.